The courthouse smelled like old paper and broken promises. Harper stood in the hallway, smoothing down the simple cream dress she'd borrowed from a coworker. 3 weeks had passed since she'd agreed to William Ashford's impossible request, and now the reality was crushing her chest like a vice. Christopher appeared from around the corner. Immaculate in navy blue, his expression carved from ice. He didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her existence until he was close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne. "My lawyer sent the prenup to your email," he said, his voice flat. "I assume you signed it yesterday." Harper's hands trembled slightly. The money was transferred this morning. Now he looked at her. Really looked. Those steel gray eyes scanned her face like he was searching for something he didn't expect to find. "Your sister starts treatment next week?" Harper blinked. She hadn't expected him to remember that detail from their single conversation in his father's hospital room Tuesday. "Good." He glanced at his watch. "We have 15 minutes. The judge is waiting." Harper repeated words that felt foreign on her tongue, watching Christopher's jaw tighten as he slid a platinum band onto her finger. It was too big. She hadn't given him her ring size because this wasn't real, wasn't supposed to matter. When the judge pronounced them married, Christopher didn't kiss her. He shook her hand like they'd just closed a business deal, his palm warm and calloused in ways she hadn't expected. Outside, rain had started falling. Christopher's driver pulled up in a black Mercedes, and Harper climbed in. Suddenly aware she was moving into a stranger's home with a suitcase and a 6-month contract, the penthouse was all glass and steel, 30 floors above Seattle. Harper stood in the enormous living room, feeling small and out of place among the modern furniture and abstract art. "Your room is down that hall. Last door on the right," Christopher said, already loosening his tie. "Mine is the opposite end. The kitchen is stocked. I'm rarely here for dinner, Christopher." Harper's voice stopped him mid-stride. "Your father wanted to see us." Before I know what my father wants, his tone could have frozen the rain outside. "But let's be clear about something, Harper. This arrangement is temporary. You'll get your money. I'll get my company. That's all this is. I never thought otherwise. Good, because I don't do relationships. I don't do feelings. And I certainly don't do love." Each word was a stone dropping into dark water. "You're here because my father manipulated us both. Don't mistake this legal contract for anything real, Harper." Harper lifted her chin, refusing to flinch. "You're afraid." Christopher went very still. When he turned back, there was something dangerous in his eyes. "What did you say?" "You heard me." Harper's heart hammered, but she held his gaze. "You're terrified of letting anyone close. That's why you're being cruel right now. That's why you've never been in love. Not because you can't, because you're afraid of what it would cost you." The silence stretched between them like a wire-pulled taut. Christopher took 3 steps toward her. He was close enough now that Harper could see the muscle jumping in his jaw, could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You don't know anything about me? Then prove me wrong." Harper's voice was barely a whisper. "We're stuck together for 6 months, Christopher. We can either be enemies, or we can try to be civil. Your choice." He stared at her for a long moment, something flickering in those cold eyes. Then he turned and walked away, his bedroom door closing with a sharp click that echoed through the empty penthouse. Harper stood alone in the vast living room, her too big wedding ring catching the city lights, and wondered what kind of prison she'd just locked herself into. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. How did it go? Harper looked at the closed door at the end of the hall, at the stranger she'd just married, and typed back a lie. "Fine. Everything's fine." But as she moved toward her new bedroom, through Christopher's door, so faint she almost missed it, came the sound of something breaking. Glass against wall. The sharp, violent sound of a man losing control, then silence. Heavy, dangerous. And Harper realized that maybe Christopher Ashford wasn't as cold as he pretended to be. 3 weeks into the marriage, Harper learned Christopher's patterns. He left before sunrise, returned after midnight, and existed in the penthouse like a ghost. They barely spoke. When they did, It was clipped and necessary, but Harper noticed things he probably thought she missed. The coffee mug left on the counter when she woke up. The way groceries she'd mentioned needing appeared in the fridge. The envelope of cash he'd left on her dresser with a note for your sister? Emergency fund. She never thanked him, because he was never there to thank. Then William died. Harper found out from a news alert on her phone. She was at the hospital with Jessica when the notification flashed. Tech mogul William Ashford passes away at 71, her chest hollowed out. She'd grown to care for the manipulative old man who'd orchestrated this mess. But more than that, she thought about Christopher, receiving that call alone. She came home to find him standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows. Still wearing his suit from the funeral she hadn't been invited to, a nearly empty whiskey bottle sat on the coffee table. Christopher, her voice was soft. "I'm so sorry. Don't." The word was sharp. "Don't pretend you cared about him."
I did care about him.
"He was my patient for 3 months, before he was your father making deals." Harper moved closer, carefully. "And whether you want to admit it or not, he loved you." Christopher laughed. A bitter, broken sound. He loved control. He loved manipulation. "He couldn't even let me inherit my own company without strings attached. He was scared you'd end up alone." "Maybe I want to be alone." Christopher finally turned to face her. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hair disheveled. He looked nothing like the cold businessman who'd shaken her hand at their wedding. "Maybe everyone I've ever cared about leaves, so why bother?" Harper's heart cracked at the raw pain in his voice. "Your mother, cancer. I was 12. He took a drink straight from the bottle. My father threw himself into work. I learned early that caring about people just means watching them disappear. I'm not disappearing. Not for 6 months, anyway." Harper tried for lightness, but Christopher's expression darkened. "That's worse, isn't it? Knowing exactly when you'll leave. Having a countdown." He set the bottle down hard. "At least when my mother died, I didn't see it coming." Harper moved before she could think better of it. She closed the distance between them and did something completely insane. She wrapped her arms around Christopher Ashford and held him. He went rigid, completely still. For a moment, Harper thought he'd push her away. Then his arms came around her, tight, desperate, like she was the only thing keeping him from shattering into pieces. They stood there. The city lights blurring beyond the windows, and Christopher buried his face in her hair and broke. He didn't cry, but his breathing was ragged, his hands fisted in the back of her shirt. And Harper felt the tremors running through his body. She held him tighter, this proud, damaged man who'd forgotten how to let anyone in. "I'm here," she whispered. "Right now, I'm here." When he finally pulled back, his defenses were crumbling. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "You're dangerous," he said, his voice rough. "You make me want things I can't have." "Like what?" "Like this." Christopher kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and hungry and full of all the emotion he'd been holding back. Harper's world tilted, her hands fisting in his suit jacket as she kissed him back with equal intensity. When they broke apart, "That can't happen again," Christopher said. But his hand was still on her face, his forehead pressed to hers. "Why not?" "Because in 5 months, you're leaving. Because this isn't real." His eyes searched hers. "Because if I let myself feel something for you, Harper, it will destroy me when you go." Harper's phone rang, shattering the moment. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. "I have to." Harper started to pull away, but Christopher's hand caught her wrist. "Answer it." Harper did. And her sister's terrified voice filled her ear. "Harper, something's wrong. The doctors are running tests. They think the cancer spread to my lymph nodes. They're talking about stopping treatment." The world dropped out from under Harper's feet. "I'm coming right now," Harper said, her voice steady even as her hands shook. She ended the call and looked at Christopher, seeing her own fear reflected in his eyes. "Your sister?" "The treatment isn't working." Harper's voice cracked. "God, what if I did all of this for nothing?" Christopher grabbed his keys. "Come on. I'm driving you. In the car, Harper stared at her wedding ring, the one that was too big, the symbol of a fake marriage that was starting to feel too real. Christopher, if Jessica doesn't make it, she started.
Stop.
His hand found hers in the dark, fingers interlacing. Don't go there yet. But as they raced through Seattle's rain-slick streets toward the hospital, Harper realized something terrifying. She wasn't just falling for Christopher Ashford, who would never be truly hers. And when her phone buzzed with an email notification, Harper's blood turned to ice. The subject line read, "You need to know the truth about Christopher." The sender was anonymous. But the attached photo showed Christopher at a restaurant 2 days ago, his arm around a stunning brunette. Both of them laughing. The timestamp showed 11 p.m., the night he'd told Harper. He was working late at the office. Harper's hand went slack, her phone nearly dropping. Christopher glanced over. What's wrong? She looked at him. At this man who'd just held her like she mattered, who'd just kissed her like she was oxygen, who was holding her hand while rushing to her sister's side, and Harper didn't know what was real anymore. Jessica was sleeping when they arrived, the hospital machines beeping steadily in the quiet room. Christopher stayed in the hallway, giving Harper space. But she could feel his presence like a weight. Harper held her sister's hand and tried not to look at her phone, tried not to think about the photo burning a hole in her pocket. At 3 a.m., when the doctors finally came with cautiously optimistic news that the scans were inconclusive and they'd run more tests in the morning, Harper found Christopher in the waiting room. He'd brought her coffee. Black, 2 sugars. Exactly how she took it. How did he know that? She's stable, Harper said, taking the cup. Her hands were still shaking. They think it might have been a false alarm. Relief flooded Christopher's face. Real, genuine emotion that made Harper's chest ache. Good. That's good. He stood, his hand touching the small of her back. In the car, Harper couldn't stop herself. Where were you Tuesday night? Christopher's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Working, why? Just asking. Harper turned to look out the window, watching Seattle blur past. You work a lot of late nights, Harper. His voice was careful. What's going on? She could have shown him the photo, could have demanded an explanation, but fear kept her silent. That this was all still fake, that she'd been stupid enough to believe his kiss meant something. Nothing, she lied. I'm just tired. Back at the penthouse, Harper went straight to her room, but sleep wouldn't come. At 4 a.m., she pulled out her laptop and did something she swore she wouldn't do. She searched for information about Christopher Ashford's dating history. The tabloid photos made her stomach turn. Christopher, with a different woman on his arm at every charity gala, every business dinner, every social event. Beautiful, polished women who belonged in his world. The most recent photo was from 6 months ago, before their marriage. A redhead named Victoria Chen, CEO of a rival tech company. Then Harper found an article from 2 weeks ago. A Society column mentioned, is Christopher Ashford's marriage already on the rocks? Sources say the CEO was spotted at Canlis with Victoria Chen, looking cozy. 2 weeks ago, right after William's death, Harper's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. She'd been so stupid. Christopher had been clear from the beginning. This was business. Nothing more. The knock on her door made her jump. Harper. Christopher's voice was muffled through the wood. I know you're awake. Let me in. She didn't move. Please. Against her better judgment, Harper opened the door. Christopher stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking exhausted and worried and so beautiful it hurt. You've been crying, he said. Stepping inside, without invitation. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. Christopher closed the door behind him. Talk to me. Who's Victoria Chen? Christopher went very still. And in that stillness, Harper saw the truth. Harper, you were with her 2 weeks ago. The night you said you were working late. Harper's voice was steady, cold. Were you with her Tuesday too? It's not what you think. Then what is it? Harper's control finally snapped. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're still seeing someone else while playing house with your convenient contract wife. Victoria is a business associate. We had dinner to discuss a potential merger. That's all. Christopher ran his hands through his hair. Tuesday I was working. I can show you my office logs, my security footage, anything you want. I don't want proof. I want the truth. Harper's chest was heaving. Did you sleep with her? No. Do you have feelings for her? Christopher's jaw clenched. I did. Past tense. Before this marriage? Before he stopped himself. Before what? Before you. The words were dragged from him like a confession. Before you made me feel things I swore I'd never feel again? Harper wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly, it physically hurt. Then why didn't you tell me about the dinner? Because I knew how it would look. Because I'm trying to keep distance between us and failing miserably, Christopher took a step closer. Because every day I spend with you makes it harder to remember this is supposed to be temporary. Christopher, I'm falling for you, Harper. His voice was raw. And it terrifies me because in 4 months you're going to leave. This contract expires. You'll take your money, go back to your life, and I'll be alone again. Just like always. Harper's breath caught. This was everything she wanted to hear. Everything she'd been too afraid to hope for. But then her phone buzzed. Another email. Another photo. This one showed Christopher and Victoria outside the restaurant. His hand on her arm, their faces close together in what could be a kiss or it could be nothing. The time stamp. Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. Harper's world shattered.
You're lying.
She whispered, turning the phone to show him. You're lying to my face. Christopher's expression went from confusion to fury as he looked at the photo. That's not Harper. This is doctored. Someone's setting me up, or you're exactly what I thought you were. Harper felt numb. A man who can't be honest. Who can't let anyone in. Who says he's falling for me while sneaking around with his ex. Victoria and I were never together. Not seriously. Christopher grabbed her shoulders. Harper, look at me. Someone sent you these photos. Someone wants you to believe I'm cheating. Maybe they want me to see the truth. The truth is I haven't touched another woman since the day we got married. His eyes were desperate. The truth is I think about you constantly. The truth is that kiss last night was the most real thing I've felt in years. Harper wanted to believe him. But the photos were damning. The lies were adding up. And she'd been hurt before by men who said all the right things. I need you to leave, she said quietly. Harper, get out.
What?
Christopher stared at her for a long moment. Then something in his face hardened. The walls slammed back up. The ice returned. Fine. This is exactly why I don't do relationships. Because no matter what I say, no matter what I do, people always believe the worst of me. He turned toward the door, then looked back. For what it's worth, I was telling you the truth. But I guess that doesn't matter when you've already made up your mind. Out. The door clicking shut felt like the end of something that had barely begun. Harper sank onto her bed, her phone still clutched in her hand. She looked at the photos again. Really looked, and that's when she noticed it. The slight pixelation around Christopher's hand. The odd shadow that didn't match the lighting. The metadata that showed the photo had been edited. Someone had set this up. Someone wanted to destroy whatever was building between them. Harper's door flew open. Christopher stood there, his face pale. Harper, we need to leave. Right now? What? Why? I just got a call from the hospital. His voice was hollow. It's Jessica. She's coding. They're losing her. The world stopped. Everything else, all the anger and hurt and confusion, evaporated. No, Harper whispered. No. They ran. The hospital corridor smelled like antiseptic and despair. Harper burst through the doors to find doctors swarming Jessica's room. Sheen screaming, her sister's body jerking on the bed. No. Harper tried to run to her, but a nurse caught her arms. Let me go. That's my sister. Christopher's arms wrapped around her from behind, holding her back as she fought. Harper, let them work. Let them save her. She can't die. She can't. Not now. Not after everything. Harper's voice broke on a sob. They watched through the window as doctors fought to bring Jessica back. Each second stretched into eternity. Each flat line on the monitor drove a knife deeper into Harper's chest. Then, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the monitor beeped. Once, twice. A steady rhythm, the lead doctor emerged, pulling off her mask. She's stable, but barely. The cancer has spread more aggressively than we thought. She needs an experimental treatment. One we discussed before, but dismissed as too risky. What kind of treatment? Harper's voice was hoarse. Immunotherapy, combined with targeted radiation. It's only being done at one facility, Johns Hopkins. But it's expensive. Even with insurance, you're looking at another $300,000, and there's no guarantee it will work. Harper felt the floor drop out from beneath her. $300,000 I don't have, she looked at Christopher, seeing her own helplessness reflected in his eyes. I'll pay for it, Christopher said immediately. What? No. Harper stepped back. That's not part of our deal. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Christopher's voice was firm. Harper, I have the money. Let me do this. Why? Harper's voice cracked. Why would you do this for me after everything? After I accused you of lying? Christopher's hands cupped her face, his thumbs wiping away tears she didn't realize were falling. Because you matter to me. Because Jessica matters to you. Before Harper could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Ashford. We should talk. The voice was female, smooth, dangerous. This is Victoria Chen. Harper's blood ran cold. She stepped away from Christopher, walking down the corridor for privacy. What do you want? To give you a warning, Christopher Ashford destroys everything he touches. His mother. His father. And soon you and your sister, you sent those photos. I doctored them, yes. But the dinner was real. Christopher came to me 2 weeks ago with a proposition. He wants to merge our companies after his father's estate settles. He'll need his inheritance for that, which means he needs you to play your part for 6 months. Harper's stomach twisted. I know why he married me. Do you? Did he tell you about the clause in William's will? That if the marriage fails before 6 months, Christopher loses everything. The company. The money. All of it. Victoria's laugh was cold. So ask yourself, Harper. Or is he a brilliant businessman who knows exactly how to keep his investments secure? The call ended. Harper stood frozen in the empty corridor, Victoria's words echoing in her mind. She thought about Christopher's kiss, his confession, his offer to pay for Jessica's treatment. Was any of it real? Or was she just another asset he needed to manage? She walked back to find Christopher on his phone, his voice low and intense. When he saw her, he ended the call quickly. That was my lawyer, he said. Discussing Jessica's treatment transfer. They can have her at Johns Hopkins by tomorrow if we authorize it. We need to talk, Harper said. Christopher's expression shifted, guarded, like he knew what was coming. Okay. Victoria Chen called me. His jaw clenched. What did she say? That you came to her with a merger proposal. That you need this marriage to last 6 months or you lose everything. Harper's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. Is that true? Christopher didn't answer immediately. And in that hesitation, Harper had her answer. It's true, he finally said. If we divorce before 6 months, I lose the company. But Harper, so this has all been about protecting your inheritance. Every kind gesture, every moment we shared. That's not. Christopher reached for her, but she stepped back. It started that way, yes. But it's not that simple anymore. Then explain it to me. Make it simple. Harper's voice broke. Tell me what's real and what's strategy. Christopher ran his hands through his hair, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. I don't know anymore. I don't know where the act ended and the truth began. All I know is that when I'm with you, I feel something I've never felt before. And it scares the hell out of me. That's not good enough. Harper's tears were falling freely now. I need you to be honest. If I walked away right now, would you stop me? Or would you fight to keep me here because you need me to secure your inheritance? The question hung between them like a blade. Christopher's face was anguished. I don't know how to answer that without losing you either way. Then I'll make it easy for you. Harper pulled off her wedding ring. I'm ending this. Not in 6 months. Now, you can tell your lawyers I broke the contract. I'll return the money, keep the money. Christopher's voice was harsh. Jessica needs it. I can't take your money if we're not married. Yes, you can. Harper, please. Don't do this. Not like this. Why not? Harper's voice was hollow. You can't tell me you love me. You can't tell me this is real. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm trying to protect you. Christopher's voice cracked. Everyone I've ever loved has left me. My mother died. My father is gone. If I admit that I've fallen for you, if I say those words out loud, then you become another person I'll lose, another scar I have to carry. So you'd rather lose me now by keeping me at arm's length. At least this way I'm choosing it. Christopher's eyes were wet. At least this way, I'm in control. Harper stared at this broken, brilliant, terrified man, and she made a choice. I'm not leaving, she said quietly. I'm staying. Not because of money, not because of any contract, but because Jessica needs that treatment, and you're the only one who can give it to her. So I'm going to swallow my pride and let you pay for it. Harper pressed the ring back into his palm. I need you to figure out what you want. Because I can't keep falling for someone who won't let himself fall back. Before Christopher could respond, a nurse appeared. Miss Sinclair? Leaving Christopher standing in the corridor with her ring in his hand and the weight of her ultimatum hanging in the air in Jessica's room. Her sister looked small and fragile against the white sheets. Harper. I heard what the doctor said. $300,000? We can't. It's handled. Howard. Harper took her sister's hand. Christopher is paying for it. Your husband? Jessica's eyes were knowing. The one you married for money? Harper, what's really going on? Harper opened her mouth to lie, then stopped. I think I'm falling in love with him. And I don't know if he feels the same way, or if I'm just another business transaction. Then ask him. He couldn't answer. Jessica squeezed her hand weakly. Maybe he's too scared to answer. Maybe he needs time. Time was the one thing Harper wasn't sure they had anymore. 3 days later, Harper stood in the Johns Hopkins corridor while doctors prepped Jessica for her first treatment. Christopher had arranged everything. Private jet. Best doctors. A hotel suite for Harper nearby. He'd thought of every detail. But he hadn't come with them. Harper stared at her phone. At the dozens of unanswered texts she'd sent. Radio silence. Christopher had retreated completely after their confrontation at the hospital. Her phone finally buzzed. But it wasn't Christopher. It was his lawyer. Christopher has filed papers to make the marriage dissolution immediate. You keep all compensation. No penalties. He's also established a trust for Jessica's ongoing medical care. Contact me if you need anything. Harper's world tilted. He was letting her go. Just like that. No fight. No explanation. She should have felt relieved. This was what she'd wanted, right? Freedom from a fake marriage that had gotten too complicated. But all she felt was hollow. Harper. Jessica's voice called from the room. Can you come in? Harper pushed through the door to find her sister sitting up, looking stronger than she had in weeks. The treatments were already showing promise. You've been crying, Jessica said. Christopher filed for divorce. Oh, Jessica's expression was sad. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what we agreed to. Temporary. Business. Harper tried to smile. I'm getting everything I wanted. You're getting treatment. The money is secure, except you wanted him to. Harper's composure finally cracked. It doesn't matter what I wanted. He made his choice, did he? Or did you make it for him? Jessica reached for her sister's hand. Harper, you gave him an ultimatum when he was clearly terrified. You asked a man who's lost everyone he's ever loved to risk his heart again. That's not fair. Neither's being with someone who can't admit they have feelings. Maybe he was trying to protect you. From himself. From the grief he knows too well. Jessica's eyes were gentle. Maybe he loved you too much to risk destroying you the way he thinks he destroys everyone. Harper sank into the chair beside the bed. Then what do I do? You fight for him. The way he fought for me. Harper flew back to Seattle that night, leaving Jessica in the care of Hopkins' best oncologists. The entire flight, her heart hammered against her ribs. The penthouse was dark when she arrived. For a moment, Harper thought Christopher wasn't home. Then she saw him, standing at the windows like the night William died, a glass in his hand. You're back, he said without turning. His voice was hollow. Why did you file for divorce? Because it's what you wanted. What you should want. Christopher finally turned to face her. He looked wrecked, exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. I can't give you what you need, Harper. I'm too damaged, too scared. You deserve someone who can love you without all the walls and conditions. What if I don't want someone else? Harper set down her bag and walked toward him. What if I want the complicated, damaged, scared man who paid for my sister's experimental cancer treatment? Who held me when I was falling apart? Who kissed me like I was the air he needed to breathe? Harper, don't I love you? The words rushed out before she could stop them. I love you, Christopher Ashford. And I don't care if it's messy or complicated or if you're terrified. I'm terrified too. Fighting for this? For us? Christopher's glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides, his hands framing her face with desperate urgency. Say it again. I love you. I don't deserve you. His voice was raw. I've hurt you. Lied to you about Victoria? You didn't lie. Someone manipulated us both. Harper's hands covered his. Victoria wanted to destroy this because she saw something real between us before we did. She called me. After you left, Christopher's thumbs brushed her cheekbones. Admitted everything. The doctored photos. The phone call to you. She wanted revenge because I chose a merger with another company over hers. So the dinner was real. The dinner was business. Nothing more. I swear to you, Harper, there's been no one else since the moment we got married. Not even before. Not really. Victoria and I had one date months ago. It didn't work. His forehead pressed against hers. Because she wasn't you. Then why couldn't you tell me this before? Because I was a coward? Christopher's voice broke. Because admitting I love you means admitting I have something to lose. And I've spent my whole life building walls so I'd never have to feel that kind of pain again. Do you? Harper's breath caught. Love me? Christopher pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. I love you so much it terrifies me. You walked into my life as a business transaction and became the only thing that matters. When I'm with you, the walls come down. I feel human again. Harper's tears fell freely now. The contract? I don't care about the contract. I don't care about the company or the inheritance or any of it. Christopher's voice was fierce. If it comes down to choosing between Ashford Technologies and you, I choose you. Every single time, your father would want you to have both. My father wanted me to be happy. And you make me happy, Harper. You make me want to be better, braver. Christopher's lips brushed hers softly. So I'm asking you, not as part of some arrangement or contract, but as a man who's completely in love with you. Will you stay? Really stay? Not for 6 months, but for as long as you'll have me. Harper's heart felt too big for her chest. Yes, God, yes. This one was soft and reverent and full of promise. When they broke apart, he was smiling. Really smiling in a way that transformed his entire face. Oh, there's something else. Christopher reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring. Not the too big platinum band from before, but a delicate diamond that caught the city lights perfectly. I had this made. Your actual size. Because I realized I wanted you to have a ring that fit. A marriage that's real. Harper's breath caught as he slid it onto her finger. Perfect fit. Perfect moment. We're already married, she said, laughing through tears. Then let's do it again. Right this time. With feelings and vows we actually mean. Christopher kissed her knuckles, his eyes never leaving hers. Marry me again, Harper. For real? Yes, Harper whispered. 1,000 times, yes. 6 months later, Harper stood in her old patient William Ashford's favorite garden at the estate he'd left to Christopher. Jessica, healthy and glowing after successful treatment, stood beside her as maid of honor. Christopher waited at the altar in the same navy suit he'd worn to their courthouse wedding. But this time his eyes were full of love instead of ice. This time, when they said their vows, every word was true. I never believed in second chances, Christopher said, his voice carrying across the garden. Until you gave me one. You taught me that love isn't something to fear. It's something worth fighting for. Harper smiled through happy tears. You taught me that the best love stories start with a fake marriage and a dying man's wish. It was real and true in theirs. That night, back at the penthouse that had become their home, Christopher pulled Harper close on the couch. I have a confession, he said. Should I be worried? My father knew. Christopher's smile was bittersweet. He knew I'd fall for you. That's why he chose you specifically. Not just because you were kind, but because you were exactly what I needed. Harper thought about William, about his manipulative final gift. Smart man, the smartest. Christopher kissed her temple. Thank you for saying yes. Both times, thank you for being brave enough to love me back. Outside, the Seattle skyline glittered like a promise. Inside, two people who'd started as strangers and become each other's home held tight to the love they'd almost lost. Sometimes the best things in life come disguised as business arrangements. Sometimes fake marriages become real love stories. And sometimes, the most broken people find healing in each other's arms. Harper and Christopher had found all three. The end.